I guess let's get started. Welcome back. I'm Nate Turner, and this is What Do They Think, a podcast dedicated to learning what people think about hot-button political issues and events, dissect those thoughts, and have a conversation. Today, I have Frankie O'Laughlin. O'Laughlin. He's a former field director for Turning Point USA and has quite a conservative following on Twitter. Luckily for him, he has exited the political sphere, but we are back to reignite the fire. How are you doing, Frankie?
I'm doing great.
How
are you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. I'm still stuck in politics, but I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't a bad thing that I got out. It was just a lifestyle change.
Just a lifestyle change. Yeah. You're living good, living in the private sector, getting a lot more money. Yeah. That's always the good thing. So let's start with what you want to talk about. You want to talk about winning over political opposites. It's no question that we're in a more polarized time than ever. Democrats and Republicans are more ideologically separate than ever before. I got these statistics from Pew Research. 27% of Democrats say that Republicans are a threat to the nation, and 36% of Republicans say that Democrats are a threat to the nation. And that's just been rising over the past 20-some years. So what's the best strategy for getting people, to talk?
Well, I mean, the one thing I always try to tell people is have those conversations initially. You don't have to. You can talk to your friends. I have a very left-leaning Democratic friend who we have conversations all the time, and I ask him, what are some issues? What are some things that if a Republican governor was running for Ohio would make you think, okay, let's actually take this seriously. Let's think about this. He told me that we just need to have these conversations, and that sitting down with friends and having those conversations as friends would be the best option.
Yeah. No. You're fine. Okay. You're fine. I'm just recording times.
It would be the best option. So, sitting down as friends, whether it be over drinks or whatever other party favors you might enjoy, have those kind of conversations. If you're a Republican, there are things that you could do to win over your Democratic friends, and if you're a Democrat, there are things that you could do to win over your Republican friends. I think the biggest thing, as both of us being conservatives or right-leaning, we could talk about is how we would win over left-leaning friends, mm-hmm. right? And so there's a few things that I think we could do, especially. The first would be to care about things, care, and not just give out facts. The one thing that the left is so good at is showing their emotions and showing that they care.
They truly care about who's being oppressed or disenfranchised.
Right, and exactly. So what we need to do is say, look, there are different communities in this country, whether they be the indigenous community, whether they be urban areas, whether they be disenfranchised communities, disadvantaged communities, the black population. There are certain communities that have been wronged in America, or America's policies aren't for them. We could say, look, this isn't working. These policies have been in the place for 40 years, and this is the result. It's time for a change. Let's help out community A, group A, not just for votes, but for the betterment of America. And I think that's the thing that's the wrong with a lot of politics right now is you're doing things for votes. You're not doing anything to actually change America for the better. There are very few politicians that I think are not in this category. Like Dan Crenshaw seems genuine. AOC is ill-brained that she might be, and I don't think she thinks through a lot of her things. She is a genuine person who a lot of people liked because she is somebody that they can relate to.
Yeah.
So that's one way I think Republicans can win over their left-leaning friends is actually care about those communities. Another one is the drug war, and it's the easiest one that Republicans can do. Is just if a Republican governor was trying to run for Ohio and saying, look, let's at least have that conversation of at least decriminalizing it. I know in Ohio it's decriminalized now, but you're gonna start seeing the revenue flow into Michigan because it is the first Midwestern state to legalize weed. You're gonna see the revenue flow into that state from all the other Midwestern states. So if Ohio were to say, look, we're gonna jump on the board, we're gonna be able to bring in this money. You might want to tax it. You might want to, however you want to create revenue off of that, or it's just gonna be the businesses that are booming in Ohio. You're gonna be able to create revenue off of that. So I think ending the drug war and having more of a positive outlook towards marijuana can help a lot of Democrats gain warm feelings towards Republicans. And another one is, this goes for both parties, call out the radicals on both sides.
Absolutely. There are 100%.
There are white supremacists on both the left and the right. There are very evil people on the both right and left. not just the bad apples, but the people who don't represent the party well.
Yeah.
People who don't represent things well. So, and I'll touch on this later on. But when people, I can't think of anyone right now, but if someone were to do something bad in, like, let's say shoot up a congressional baseball field.
Yeah.
Right.
For instance.
Right. Just for instance, and they said, "Oh, my inspiration was Bernie Sanders," or let's take Ted Cruz, right? Mm-hmm. My inspiration was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz should come out as soon as he can and say, "Look, I disavow this. You are in the wrong. You're an evil person," whatever it might be, to show that he is clearly not on this guy's side. I think it's important for both left and right. And I think especially the left, if they were to do that, groups like Antifa, the hardcore socialists, the hardcore communists that are in this country, the hardcore gun grabbers. I think it's important for Democratic leaders to be like, look, this does not represent our party's aims and our mission. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, but when it comes to violently destroying the fabric that holds America together, I think we have to cast those people away.
I think absolutely. So on, like, the congressional baseball stuff, I think it's also important to make note, like, someone would say, like, "Oh, I shut up these people because Bernie Sanders or Ted Cruz," we should automatically make the assumption that they probably didn't. Well, they should simultaneously say, "I completely disavow these things. We shouldn't go casting these people as the ultimate arbiters of evil. Why would you do such a thing?" Mm-hmm. I think I disagree with you in the sense that, like, all politicians are bad politicians except for, like, namely a few. Like, AOC is good intentioned, Dan Crenshaw is good intentioned. I generally think that, like, a lot of people are really good intentioned. There's certainly a lot of few bad apples that gives, like, the whole, I guess, organization a bad name, like it gives Congress a bad name, but generally these are, like, people who want to help their constituency, I feel. And they might do an ineffective job because it's Congress, it's the government, they always do an ineffective job. And we really should disparage people because of that. Like, obviously there are a few bad apples, like they'll take away funding from this place, or like they'll make processes harder in another place, but like most of the time these people are just trying to help their constituents or trying to better America.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, a lot of polarization kind of tends to that. But another question that I wanted to ask was about, like, increasing political rhetoric. Mm-hmm. That's, like, probably one of the biggest things that's going on. I see on the right side accusing of the left, like, we're at a civil war, these people hate America, there's an invasion at our southern border, all this kind of stuff, just trying to, like, incite people to say, they're doing all these terrible things because they're terrible people.
Yep.
We have to do something about that. And then you have the left that are saying, like, oh man, these people hate children, they hate women, they hate like immigrants.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend in a systems class, and he was saying, like, oh yeah, my family is, like, pretty much Republican, but we won't vote for one because of, like, all the shit that they say.
Yeah.
And they're Hispanic, but, like, they have pretty much the same values. Like, they see that there's a crisis on the border. They want, like, fiscal responsibility, limited government, stuff along those lines. But they won't pull the lever for a Republican because the Republican keeps just, like, saying all this dumb shit. Mm-hmm. What do we do about that?
We have to hold them. We have to, hold their feet to the fire. To say, look, we don't like you. We have to vote you out. That is logically the only way that we can do this. Vote out the people that you don't like. Now, again, this comes down to a community aspect where I think our communities aren't strong enough to be like, look, this guy he's not representing us well. Vote them out, hold their feet to the fire. Maybe publicly hold public forums where you can question your representatives publicly. And they, and another thing I don't like when politicians do is do, like, the very bland or vanilla answers that don't really give an answer.
Like, what do you mean?
So you hold a forum for a Republican governor or Republican representative who's saying we need to build the wall now because Mexicans are coming in and destroying our country. Right, I think that's pretty outlandish kind of thing to say. Not all immigrants are Mexicans. Not all Mexicans are coming into the country. A lot of Mexicans are coming into this country looking for a better life. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a very outlandish thing to say that we need to build the wall now because Mexicans are destroying our country. So you hold a public forum and ask them what they meant by that comment, why they said that comment, and make them give a deeper explanation to that answer. If they were to say, well, what I really meant to say was that we have an issue at the border that we need to solve. That doesn't really give it, because we knew your stance before. We knew that you think there's an issue at the border that we need to solve. Mm-hmm. You just putting it in a more kinder version isn't really giving us an answer. Tell us how you're going to do that. Tell us what resources and what programs you're going to contribute to stopping that.
People don't like words; they really want action.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Have you ever seen the Family Guy episode where Lois is running for mayor and all she says is 9/11 is bad, and everybody's just like yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So yeah, hold your politicians to their feet to the fire. If, for example, the current governor. I never was a really big fan of him. Current governor of Ohio, his name is slipping my mind.
Mike DeWine.
I was never really a big fan of him when he was running. He kind of did seem like the Republican that was hitting all the Republican talking points just so he can get those votes. And what I meant when I said that was they're ignoring... Yes, of course, they want to help out their constituents, but they're ignoring some issues so that they can gain some votes. You know, they might not hit on, okay, well...
They're self-interested,
right,
essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So Ohio's going through a huge opioid crisis right now. Well, what are you going to do to solve it? You know? Or you're going to talk about abortion, you're going to talk about weed. I remember Mike DeWine said that he saw a child come into the emergency room because he had taken one of his parents' gummies and, you know, he was having a seizure or something. He was having a very bad reaction to the edible gummy. And my reaction to that is, okay, how is that different than the kid finding a glass of water and it's actually vodka?
Yeah.
You know, how is that different? That falls on personal responsibility with you and your family. That shouldn't be a state law. That's the reason that we have to have illegal weed. Mm-hmm. You know, but no, hold your politicians to their what they're supposed to be doing and hold them accountable, because if you don't, they're just gonna run amok.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I guess in terms of political polarization, I've been trying to do that, like trying to, I guess, aid that myself in like the best way I can. I've just been trying to talk to people across the political spectrum. I'm talking to you, I've been talking to Alex, Tyrell, and I recently had like 2 conversations, one with someone with Students Demand Action, so that's a like
gun rights group?
Not a gun rights group.
Okay.
It's like Moms Demand Action in every town for gun safety.
Okay.
So it's like gun control, kind of. I don't want to say control because that can mean a variety of things, but he was in support of things like red flag laws and universal background checks, and I think that was it. Mm-hmm. But like I think we generally agreed on like a lot of stuff. We obviously want people to have their right to bear arms. We want people to be safe. We don't want people to be shot up. I like to kind of think of fixing the political divide as keeping our agreements as broad as we possibly can, because oftentimes we get super polarized and super angry at people because of small little niches and things that we generally agree about. So like, I guess in the gun control debate, if I want to keep it as general as possible, neither of us want dead kids. Neither of us want dead kids, and neither of us want people to be unsafe generally. Like, you want people to defend themselves in the best possible capacity, and we have to find a way. We both realize, like, we agree on this and we realize what the end goal is, but we don't really know how to get to that end goal, and I don't think that that's like a way to polarize ourselves, because once again, like, we might agree that we both don't want dead kids, but we might get angry at each other for saying like, oh, red flag laws are a solution, they're not the solution.
Right. We both have the same feel about dead kids and these mass shootings. We just have different answers to the solution, and that's really what we're getting mad at with each other about. You know.
Yeah, I didn't intend for that to get into mass shootings, but that's the second topic.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's my next topic. Yeah,
that's the second topic.
The mass shootings.
Yeah, I guess that was a very, very seamless. I didn't even
transition.
Think of that.
Yeah, that was great.
That was just completely off the top of my head. I didn't pat myself on the back for that one. So, like, in terms of mass shootings, it seems like that they're getting a lot more frequent and a lot more deadly. I've seen statistics that say it's, like, kind of up and down on how many mass shootings happen per year, but, like, the death count seems to be getting, like, more and more and more. And there have been several high-profile mass shootings in 2019 alone. There's El Paso, there's Dayton, there's the one in Odessa, Texas that happened, I believe, this weekend. There's even a shooting at Ohio State. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. I was up in Cleveland with Sophia a week ago, and she woke up to an alert saying that there was a shooting in Ohio State. What happened?
Wait, why'd she get an alert for?
She has some news app that she has on her phone.
Oh, okay. So the shooting happened. It wasn't super big, but it really took like a lot of people up. It happened 2 a.m. on, I believe, Saturday morning. No, it was sometime this week, but it was at like 2 a.m. It happened at the McDonald's on High Street. High Street. It was that way somewhere. I don't know who the shooter was, but the victim, there was only one victim who got shot. They got put in like critical care. It was not a student, but like obviously a lot of people are partying because it's a weekend, and it just took everyone by shock, by surprise. What do you do about these mass shootings?
Oh God, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I don't think there's any sort of gun control that we can put forth that may be able to stop this, because you're gonna have violent people do violent actions. Now, what I've been trying to tell myself is that, look, there's a deeper societal issue that is at hand for a lot of our nation's problems right now. Mm-hmm. Whether it be the mass shootings, whether it be the opioid crisis, whether it be the demand for abortion and abortion cases rising. I think a lot of it has to do with the breakdown of the family unit, but that's something that we can get into later. If you want to talk about what can we do regulation related that'll stop these mass shootings, we could start with red flag laws.
What do you think about red flag laws?
As a conservative, I'm very scared of them because it can lead to abuse of power. It can lead to some cases where it's very clear that this was a mistake, and that the rights shouldn't have been taken away. And rights aren't given or taken away by the government. Rights are God-given. It's written in our Constitution that our rights are God-given and not given by the government, and therefore the government cannot give nor take away rights. So red flag laws, for me personally, they go against a lot of the things that I'm principled in, but I also do want some sort of regulation put forward so that these sort of things can't stop. With red flag laws, it would have to be a family member that goes to a local judge or police and provide evidence that their rights should be taken away. I've heard cases of, their rights are taken away from 30 to 60 days, and they can go back and go to the same judge and provide evidence saying that my rights should be given back to me. Yeah. But again, that just seems way too tyrannical, way too
authoritarian.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm going to provide a little bit of pushback here. I'm not necessarily in favor of red flag laws, but I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea. I think it requires a great deal of social trust to be able to implement those. You have to really trust, I would have to really trust you for you to notice that I'm in danger and I have a gun and I could do something about that. I could kill myself, or I could shoot up a bunch of people. I don't know. It requires a great deal of social trust to be able to perform those. But I think that there have been, I was talking to that gun control guy, Students Demand Action yesterday, and he was showing me a bunch of statistics saying that there are notable decreases in suicides and homicides when these red flag laws are implemented. I haven't seen the studies. Red flag laws are one of the few things that I haven't looked at about guns, but if that's a notable thing, what should we have a national red flag law? Should we just do it state by state and see what happens, kind of measure that? What should we do?
I definitely don't think it should be federal. I'm not in favor of the federal government being the ones that we have to go to get our rights or give them back to us.
Yeah.
Or have them take away. Even on a state by state basis, it seems too big for me. I would like it to be a county judge.
So very local.
Very local. Mm-hmm. And then they can send that case to the state, but at max it shouldn't go past the state level. In a perfect world for me, it would be you either go to your city or your county judge and say, my brother has been very violent lately. He just got laid off. He owns this weapon. He has talked about in the past, hurting people at his workplace. I think that he's going to do something terrible either to himself or to the people he works with. Can we go in for a wellness check? And if these fears are proven correct, have his Second Amendment right taken away while we, make sure that he either blows off the steam or gets treatment or whatever it might be. I definitely think, that right should be given back to that citizen at some point, but we also have citizens that can't legally own firearms anyways, or for a permanent period of time. Mentally ill people, convicted felons. These are all people state by state that have some sort of restriction on their Second Amendment right, and for, frankly, I believe, rightful reasons. do we put these new people in that class, into that little group? Are they half into that little group where they can get their Second Amendment right back? It's a gray area for me. Like it does seem for you, but the more localized it is, the better I feel about it.
Yeah, that's understandable. What about other gun control measures? The guy that I was talking to, once again, suggested universal background checks. He was not in favor of something like an assault weapons ban.
No.
Talk more about assault weapons bans.
So the majority of shootings that happen in the United States aren't mass shootings. A lot of them are either suicides or homicides, and a lot of those homicides are drug-related or gang-related. A lot of those crimes or suicides are committed with a handgun or a revolver or a shot or some sort of weapon that wouldn't be classified as an assault rifle or fit into the list that people commonly refer to as assault rifles. So we need to. It's kind of silly to go and create these assault rifle bans when these aren't the issue for a lot of the deaths in America. It is still deaths in America, and these are still issues that we need to solve, but I don't feel that assault rifle bans would do anything. I think if you're really looking to decrease the amount of murders and homicides and suicides in the country per year from firearms, you'd have to go in at a deeper handgun ban, and then I think you have so many Second Amendment supporters, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, fighting against you that it's just going to deepen that divide in America.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I guess this is tied kind of within the gun issue, because I've seen a lot of the rise of this lately, and this is the problem with white nationalism. So obviously the El Paso shooter was a white nationalist. You saw his manifesto posted on 8chan. He was influenced by the Christchurch shooter, and I think it was the Pittsburgh shooter. All three of them, yeah, Tree of Life, yeah. All three of them were white supremacists. And it feels like that's kind of like a rising thing in America. A lot of these shooters are like more white nationalists. They're posting these manifestos. They hate Jews, minorities, whatever. What do you do about that kind of stuff? What's the solution to kind of fix that?
Is there a solution? Because at that point, the first thing that comes to my mind is regulating 8chan, and I don't want the government regulating any sort of websites or anything like that, or discussion boards. I guess would those people fall into the group that can be considered for red flag laws, like their sister or somebody close to them sees something that they post online and they take it to a local judge? I don't know. What really can you do about? What seriously can you do about white nationalism? You can't throw these people in jail. Now, obviously, if they provoke violence, if they call for somebody to be for violence upon somebody else, then obviously they've broken the law, and then they can be prosecuted and taken in. But until they do something like that, really, I don't know. I don't like white nationalists, but I truly don't have an answer of what we can do for that.
Mm-hmm. You did say a second ago that you think that this whole mass shooting epidemic has been stemmed by the breakdown of the family.
Yeah.
Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Oh yeah, I can. So the breakdown of the family unit, I believe, is the greatest issue that America is facing and has been facing for the past 20 or 30 years. You're seeing 1/3 of African American children grow up without a father. A large amount of these are due to the war on drugs.
War on drugs, yeah.
Yeah. You're seeing a lot of these arrests for 8 grams of weed or a small amount of drugs that these people are being arrested for just trying to gain money so that they can care for their community. You're also seeing divorce rates go sky high because now we have phones that have Tinder, Bumble, Twitter. We have all these ways of meeting people, so you're going to have a higher divorce rate because it's very easy. It's much easier now than ever to cheat on your significant other and to break down that family. A lot of these shooters, if you look at them, a lot of these shooters did not have a father growing up, and I think that having a father figure in your life is the most important thing that can happen to you. I'm grateful enough that I grew up with a mother and a father that were married, and they are still happily married. And I talk to them every week, and they were my role models growing up. But I know a lot of people who weren't as lucky as me, and I can see. It's not that I can see the issues, but I can see they talk to me about, their distrust for their parents or, their problems growing up. And a lot of it does seem like people who didn't have that, not mother and father, but that two-parent household.
Yeah.
If they didn't have that growing up, they have a lot more issues, whether it's with their life, whether it's with their mental illness or mental well-being, physical well-being, financial well-being, whatever it might be. So I think that is the biggest issue, because that's leading to a lot of drug use, that's leading to a lot of violent crime, that's leading to a lot of, like I said, marriages falling apart. I really do think that once we come together as a community, number one, and number two, regain our moral grounding, which is, staying faithful to your significant other, contributing to your community and helping your community, and supporting local business. I think that's a huge thing as well. We're not going to see a better America for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of I guess different solutions to all these different problems is not really a policy solution, but like kind of a cultural shift. And I kind of see that the same with the breakdown of the family. You're not going to legislate families to be better. Right. You can't keep people in marriages that they don't want to be in. You can't enforce monogamous relationships that are best for children. You definitely need a kind of cultural paradigm shift in order to bring that back together, because if you don't really have a culture of responsibility and have that kind of enforced within your community, it just kind of breaks down.
Yeah.
I guess we can go on a lighter note and we can talk about space. So a question that I want to start off with: do you think that there are aliens in space?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. I think it's called the Drake's formula, and you have however many planets are surrounded by a sun and are in that Goldilocks zone. It's basically infinite chances that we have aliens, whether it's in our galaxy or in other galaxies. I, for 100%, believe that there are aliens.
I always keep in the back of my head, the universe is infinite, so there has to be some world that is a representation of, I don't know, a video game that you like, or just us, but we're opposite, I'll be left-handed or something stupid like that. The universe is just infinite.
So different, what is it? Different paradoxes or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I don't think it's paradoxes, but different
dimensions.
Different dimensions, something along those lines. I absolutely believe in infinite universes too. There's
our universe, and there's all these little universes that are this little, but in this
just a little bit changed.
Yeah.
But I can't wait till we go to space and do you think that space conquest will happen relatively soon in our lifetimes?
I mean, when you say conquest, the first thing I guess conquest to me means colonizing Mars, taking over another planet.
Do you think that we will live on Mars in the near future?
Live on Mars? No. I think that'll be our children or our grandchildren's lifetime. I think in our lifetime we can likely see the architecture set up and the facilities being set up. Giving oxygen to that, giving Mars an atmosphere, number one, making it a livable space. I could see that start to happen in our lifetime. I think I've seen articles that say that it's going to take up to 50 years, 100 years, 150 years to make that planet livable. But yeah, I'm on the same board. I'm super excited for humanity to take that next step, to kind of reach out and see what else we're capable of doing. Because I think when humanity comes together, we're not an unstoppable force, but if humanity came together, we could do so much more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really excited for space exploration.
What is the government's role in that? So obviously, Space Force has come back into commission. I actually have some facts right here. Space Command officially was instituted by Ronald Reagan in 1985. I didn't know that. It eventually merged in 2002 with the U.S. Strategic Command, and then Trump formally reinstated the U.S. Space Command. What was that, a couple of days ago?
Yeah, August 29th.
Yeah, August. Wow, you have that memorized. That's good for you. You are signing up for the draft to be on the Space Force.
I'd be down. If I didn't have things going so right in my life right now, I'd be down.
So, yeah, what is the government's role in kind of space? Should the U.S. have its own branch of Space Force, or should the entire Earth come together for one, I guess, Earth Force for space?
Well, I would say the world, but unfortunately I don't think there are leaders or countries with the same goals as us. China. Number one, I view the two countries that are in contention with us are China and Russia. In creating a space force. I think Japan is close, but China and Russia. And I don't think their goals are going to be as good as ours. I view ours as a purely defense standpoint, whereas I view China's as offensive and Russia's as offensive as well.
What do you mean by that?
Destroying satellites, hacking satellites, hacking.
So they're more malicious than us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's just my viewpoint. I could be wrong. Somebody else could come saying the opposite, saying China's and Russia's is defensive and the United States is offensive. That's just personal opinion. What role does the government have in space? I don't think it has a role, but I think it's going to be created. Okay. Basically. I mean, what role does the government have in helping families that, don't have enough income to support themselves? Me personally, I don't think they have any role, but there is going to be a role.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Is that an answer? Or is that a
they're
answer?
kind of artificially creating their own role in space, or helping families. But I think it's kind of different because the government at the beginning of the U.S. government at the beginning, they have the role of instituting some kind of defense.
Yeah. And
that branches into a lot of different operations. Obviously, you have land forces, you have naval forces, you have air forces, and now you can have space forces. It's kind of hard to say what the Space Force will do. It just seems like, I don't know, extended NASA, you go up and you build the ISS.
You could destroy missiles incoming.
You could destroy missiles that are incoming. You could do something about asteroids that are coming in.
Now the scary thing about that is that would mean that our government has technology that we don't know of. Mm-hmm. Which I personally believe our government is always at least 30 years ahead technology-wise.
I always hear something along those lines.
Yeah, they have technology that we don't know about yet. We can't even think about yet. But I'll tell you this: I do think the private sector is going to do a lot more, and is going to have a lot more of an impact than the public sector and that actual governments, that world governments are going to have in space. I think that.
So space pirates.
Not space pirates, but SpaceX. I think people like Nicholas Tesla.
Nicholas Tesla, yeah.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I think that people like him are going to have a much greater influence in space and the development of space projects than any federal government could. The reason for that is because they're looking at it from a purely how can we make money off of this? How can we make money off of it the fastest? When it comes back to my free markets capitalist viewpoint, is when it comes to the public sector, it's going to outpace, it's going to outperform and give you a better quality of product than the public sector.
I should say, I think SpaceX is only one of the only private companies that are actually doing space. But to be fair, they do get a lot of public money.
Yeah.
They do get a ton of public money. What do you think this is kind of a deviation from the whole space thing, but I'll get back to it. What do you think about the government's role in funding companies like SpaceX to be able to tour space? Should they be able to do that? Should they not be able to do that? Because I'm kind of on the fence.
Right.
I'm all in support of I don't know, the government using some money for research on new drugs, on I don't know, new drugs going out to space. I think that's generally a good idea, but I'm always questionable about what's the government doing? Is it stepping outside of its boundaries? Is it doing that in this case?
Yes, I do. I don't want the government giving money to private companies. Now, a lot of this money comes from grants for research projects that aren't directly related to. Yes, you could say the government gave money to SpaceX to fund space exploration, but if you look at it exactly, the government gave this department of SpaceX money to research anti-gravity. So yes, they gave them money to contribute to SpaceX, but it's at a much more specific level. I'm still not on board with it.
Do you think that's kind of the same argument as what is it, Planned Parenthood getting federal money to not do abortions, but they also do abortions?
Right. Yeah. I was actually just having that conversation with my buddy earlier. I don't think that the federal government or state government should be giving money to any private business. Mm-hmm. Whether it's an organization like Planned Parenthood, whether it's an organization like SpaceX, Ford, bailing them out. I truly don't believe that you have to let the free market stand. If the company has the money for it, they have the money for it. If they don't, they have to get the money for it.
Mm-hmm. I guess the last part on space, there was an asteroid that was detected by NASA. I don't know how far away it is, but it's rumored to have 10,000. That's supposed to say quadrillion worth in gold. 10,000 quadrillion worth in gold. So that's 10 quintillion in gold. $10 quintillion in gold, I should say.
It's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. What do you do with an asteroid like that? Do you just take it and just bring it back to Earth and then crash the economy, or how does something like that work?
Well, I mean, it's not going to do much if our dollar isn't tied to the gold standard. Number one. What do you do with that? I mean, I think these are the conversations that really start the next generation and the next era of progress. Is what do we do with wealth that is in space that we can utilize and that we can.
I did see a podcast. I was listening to a podcast earlier specifically about this asteroid, and they were suggesting NASA hold not really a contest, but they're not going to go after it, but people can try to go after that. They take the major risk of trying to create a rocket and fly it out into space, and then try to dig off a little piece of that gold and then bring it back, and then you get all the reward from that. But obviously, the great risk
all the risk, all the reward.
All the risk, all the reward. And that wouldn't exactly crash the economy because people have been pouring. I guess you're kind of generating wealth in a sense. You have the risk, you have the gold over here, that if you extract it, you just grow in huge size. But at the same time, you're creating this team of people to go out and try to get that asteroid and get back all the gold, which is really risky. You could tank your entire business.
Right.
I just think that's super interesting if people wanted to actually build their own rockets and go out to space to try to mine that asteroid.
I mean, think of it like this. When oil was just being discovered in America especially, I believe the federal government actually gave an incentive to go out and get oil out in Texas, or out in areas that weren't claimed by the United States yet, or weren't inhabited by the United States yet. You still had Native American tribes who viewed the colonizers in a negative way, who would happily kill them if they can. You have the environment that's trying to kill you. You have all these risks of going out and getting the oil. But if you get the oil, you get the oil. There's a reason it's called black gold. It's because it sells so high and you can make a lot of money off of it, and then everybody in that operation becomes richer, right? Same thing with this asteroid. If, let's say, a Japanese company successfully goes up and mines off a little bit of gold and proves that it's successful. Mm-hmm. Not only do they have the capability to do that now, they have more money to put into their project to go back up and get more.
And you've just proved that
it's possible.
It's possible, and you'll have a lot more people trying to go up there and grab that.
And
gold.
You have a booming business that's going to create revenue. Yeah. Again, the private sector is so beautiful.
It is really great. So that's all the questions that I have for you now, but we're going to move on to the surprise questions.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, this is fun. So Democratic primaries are obviously in session. It's always entertaining. You grab your popcorn and you just watch them tear each other apart. So 3 questions I want to ask you. Who's your favorite Democratic presidential candidate, least favorite, and most likely to win the nomination?
Oh, okay.
You can do multiple for each category, but
my most favorite by far is Tulsi Gabbard so far.
Everyone loves Tulsi. I was talking to one of the socialists from YDSA here, libertarian socialist guy, really great. I had lunch with him. He's a really nice guy. He was saying Tulsi Gabbard is one of his favorites too.
She seems like the most sane, and that's getting back to what I was talking about earlier. Is how does the left win over the right? How's the right? It just seems sane. Seem like you're a moderate, and that you're not proposing wild ideas creating national health care. Tulsi Gabbard seems most sane. I think somebody asked her, do you think Walmart should be able to sell as ARs? And she literally said that's for Walmart to decide.
Yeah.
The government doesn't have any business regulating that. That's for Walmart to decide. And that for me is all right, yeah, let me take you seriously now.
Yeah. And she's a really I guess kind of good foreign policy kind of person too.
Yeah.
I think she wants to pull out of a lot of wars. She has her experience in serving in I don't even know where she served. Iraq?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's another thing, too, and I think a lot of U.S. citizens want a president with some sort of militaristic background.
How cool would it be if we had, like, Dan Crenshaw up on the presidential...
Dude, it would look badass.
Yeah,
imagine how badass that would look.
We have the first guy who has an eye patch for president. That is the affirmative action that I want.
Is that fact checked?
What, that he's an eye patch?
No.
I think that's true.
Is it a conspiracy? Is he hiding something behind that eye?
Is he hiding something behind that eye? That's a good question. I don't know. Oh, man. I really don't know. Maybe it's like some sort of robot wiring or something. But, okay, so you talked about your favorite, Tulsi Gabbard. Who's your least favorite?
I think my two least favorites are Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren. Warren...
No one likes a cop.
Yeah, nobody likes a cop. And nobody likes a cop who's like, look, I put a lot of people in jail for petty drug crimes, but let's legalize weed now, right, guys? Like, let's be cool.
Let's do it now, man.
Yeah. No, like, you seem like a total sellout. You seem fake. You seem like the typical politician that I don't like. You did this, and then now you're proposing this, and those contradict each other. The reason I don't like Elizabeth Warren, she literally lied about being Native American. There's so many cases against it. Like, she talked about, like, how in Oklahoma she would make, like, crab or like, lobster stew or something like that, like, in fresh from Maryland. Like, it was not possible in that time period to transport that seafood from Maryland to Oklahoma with it still being, like, edible in any sort of way, or if not decomposed by that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Her DNA test came back showing that, like, my grandfather probably has more Native American in him than she ever does. She seems like the kind of politician who's just like, hey, like, oh, what she talks to her manager, what do I have to do to get more ratings? Oh, I have to drink a beer on Facebook Live? Yeah,
that was so fake.
She does so much cringy stuff that it's just like, you're trying too hard. It's obvious that you're trying too hard.
A lot of these Democrats are like kind of the cringe fest. Yeah. You see Kirsten Gillibrand at like a bar or whatever. She's
gay pride or gay
rights.
Gay rights.
So great. It's just so funny.
Who do I think is gonna win? Joe Biden probably.
Joe Biden.
Now, he's gonna win the nomination. I think if he wins the nomination, I think he wins against Trump. I mean, we're putting Joe Biden, who has this documented record of being very creepy with women, against a president who is
also kind
not
of creepy
good with women whatsoever. Like,
you kind of have a repeat of 2016, except
a little bit better.
They might be a little bit worse.
Really? You think they're worse? I would rather have Joe Biden than Hillary Clinton.
I don't know, man. I love Trump. Trump is a fine dude. I think he's like doing a lot of good things, but he certainly has a lot of bad things in his history and a lot of his comments. And it's just like, dude, you just need to shut up.
I think if he deletes Twitter, he at least gets...
If he deletes Twitter, he will get
15% more in ratings. Easily. It is never good to like publicly like talk about what you're thinking constantly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the leader of the free world, if not the most powerful man in this world. Mm-hmm. It's not a good idea to be like, I didn't like what you said on ABC this morning. Very sad, pencil neck. Like, dude, come on. Like, I understand that, and there's a huge base on the right that absolutely eats that up. Like,
I think that some of his tweets are absolutely funny, but some of his tweets and comments are like, you're not gonna get anything good out of this if you keep saying something like this.
What was it the other day that he said like, oh, Tulsi Gillibrand, like, or Gillibrand dropped out of the race? Too bad Democrats. I was the one who was scared of her. Like that.
That was the one person I was scared of.
I was like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that Trump's doing that like, I don't love the dude. I voted for him because I hate Hillary Clinton. I hate the Clintons, but
kind of like the best of the worst.
He's the best of the worst, and there are some Democratic nominees that I would rather vote for than voting for him again. Like, if it was Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gillibrand,
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi
Gabbard.
Keep
missing them up.
Oh yeah, man, bad with names, really bad with names. If it was those two against Trump, I'd probably vote for one of those two.
If it was Marianne Williamson, I'd 100% vote for her. You see her plans for the Department of Peace? There's no way that she's gonna lose. No way in the world. Who doesn't want a Department of Peace?
Department of Peace?
Yeah, Department of Peace. It's a new federal bureaucracy that's going to instill peace. That's what Marianne Williamson is about. She wants to target the dark psychic force that's plaguing this country.
Wow.
You want to see it?
I know.
Man,
Listen, I need a bag of mushrooms if we're gonna go on that kind of dark psychic force that is destroying this country.
She's just a load of laughs. Alex always gets mad at me that I'm Marianne Williamson fangirling over here. Boy. Well, I think that's all the time that I have for today. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.